So we're making cherry oat squares, bars, as a dessert. So another thing for heart health is maintaining your weight. And so obviously, everybody likes to have treats sometimes, having a sweet tooth sometimes. I know I do after a meal. But making my own desserts and using fruit and fiber or whole grains in the mixture is something that's kind of a healthier version. So you're able to control, what's going in as well. But specifically for this recipe, we're going to concentrate on a type of fiber. Okay, that's said to that we know that research has shown that helps with heart health, and that's with the oats. So for texture purposes, there's and taste, there's reasons for that as well. But in addition, having oats, because of its soluble fiber, helps to improve the LDL cholesterol. So that's that bad cholesterol and the one that's bad for your heart.
Okay, so this one is, again, it's pretty simple in regards to the ingredients. We really are focusing on the oats. Those are the star. And we're using large flake oats here, but you can definitely use the quick oats, like the sort of par chopped ones. Instant oats don't work as well because they're really finely chopped. But either the large flake or the quick will work really well. Now, I want to pulse some of this up into a flour. You can also buy oat flour, but I mean, if you have oats and they charge you for just grinding it up for you. So I'm using a food processor. You can even do this in a blender to process oats. I don't need it super fine, but I want it almost the texture of like a coarse flour. So I'm gonna put the oats in here. So food processor or blender. I'm gonna add some nuts as well. So I have some almonds. Again, you can buy almond flour, but if you have almonds, you can just make your own. It's really simple. So we're gonna add some almonds in there. So oats, almonds, untoasted, and then I'm adding a little bit of brown sugar to this as well. It's not necessary, it's completely up to you. We just want a little bit of sweetness, and this is making a pretty big dish, so it actually doesn't work out to be too much. If your brown sugar clumps up like mine does when it just sits, I'm also gonna put it in the food processor. So we'll let it do the work of breaking everything up. And we're gonna pulse it until it's pretty fine. I'm shaking here.
The brown sugar.
Probably the brown sugar. Yeah, this one was a pretty solid chunk. You know what? I already made one for you that's tasty. So we're gonna remove that piece. And I'll keep going. All right, maybe a little more. So again, it doesn't have to be really fine like flour, but you want to get close to it. All right, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So they are ground oats, almonds, a little bit of that brown sugar, a little less of that brown sugar.
Yeah. And the soluble fiber that's found in the oats helps to trap that cholesterol, that bad cholesterol, as it moves through the digestive tract and remove it from your body. Okay, so that's why really important to make sure that you're getting different types of that soluble fiber in your diet. Other sources can be things like beans, psyllium, cereals with psyllium, eggplant, barley, and other types of fruit. Right, so the soluble fiber in fruit is basically found in the flesh of that fruit. So like if you think of an apple, The skin of the fruit would be the insoluble fiber, which is also good. That helps with your digestion and kind of moving things along appropriately. But the fleshy part inside the apple, that's the soluble fiber, and that's going to help absorb the cholesterol into the digestive tract and then eliminate it from the body.
So yeah, we have our pulsed oats, almonds. I'm going to add the rest of the oats in here. So the large flake oats are just going to give it a little bit more texture. So we have 2 different textures going on. Cinnamon, because I like cinnamon, it's tasty. A little bit of baking powder as well. And we'll mix this up. And then we're going to add, for our fat, we're going to add some grapeseed oil. Grapeseed oil, again, it's a good unsaturated fat, but it's a neutral tasting oil, which means that you don't really get much flavor coming from it. If I was making it at home, I'd probably still use olive oil, but you're going to taste the olive oil in it. So grapeseed oil, you won't taste.
Yeah. And as Jeremy said, again, using those healthier fats. So we're, as opposed to kind of having butter, which is that saturated fat, you want to aim to have, ones that are unsaturated. And so grapeseed oil, olive oil, avocado oil. These are all options. Maybe you're not using avocado in this kind of a fruity dessert.
But you could.
But you can, depending on what you had.
So about half a cup. I just eyeballed it. Essentially, we want to mix it up until you start to see it cluster and clump together. So it's pretty much there. That's exactly what I'm looking for. It should still be sort of dry, but if I were to grab this, it should sort of hold its shape a little bit. Okay? So this is the bottom and the top. It's going to act as both. And we're going to put it into any baking pan that you have. Probably an 8x8 will work. If you don't have a square baking pan, if you don't have a rectangular baking pan, use whatever you have. This is a circular baking pan. And I definitely want to line it with a little bit of parchment. It's just going to make our lives a lot easier. We do use a lot of parchment. We focus on it particularly even for our fatigue classes because it does help to reduce a lot of the cleanup afterwards, which is fantastic. It can be a little difficult to put it into a deep lipped pan. So one way to get around that is just by wetting it slightly with some water and crunch it up. You can drain some of the excess out, and then it will tuck beautifully into the corners. So that's going to make it a lot easier to plate. So we're going to use about more than half, slightly more than half of the mixture, and press it down. Make sure you get into all the corners. And we'll try to get as even as possible. I mean, no one's grading you after, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but we want to try to get it sort of as compact as we can. And so that is the bottom. For the middle, you can add whatever you want. You can add like you mentioned, bananas, like some mashed up bananas you can put in between. If you just have like a marmalade or a jam that you've made, or you have a store-bought one, you're adding a little bit more sugar there, so just be mindful. But you can even, on a pinch, you can spread that in between. In the recipe, I gave you directions on how to make just a quick cherry filling, and I did it ahead of time because you do want to make it chill in the refrigerator. But it's essentially a frozen bag of cherries. I can also use frozen blueberries. They're great. Frozen raspberries. They have amazing frozen fruits.
Peaches.
Yeah, frozen peaches. You want to heat it up in a small pot with the zest and juice of a lemon, full lemon. Acid and lemon juice helps to brighten up flavors that have been dulled by the freezing process. So adding a little bit of lime juice, a little bit of lemon juice to frozen fish, frozen vegetables, frozen fruit helps to bring the flavors back.
Yeah.
So a little bit of lemon juice. If you want to sweeten it a bit, not necessary. And then to thicken it, you can use either cornstarch or I use arrowroot powder. Arrowroot powder is just another thickener. It's from the arrowroot. It's like a tuber. You can find that in grocery stores as well. It just helps to give it, without adding like pectin, it helps to give it that sort of thick consistency when it's refrigerated.
Yeah.
So this,
so nice.
Yeah, so this is it. And this, again, just frozen cherries, a little bit of lemon juice, and that arrowroot powder.
Yeah.
So we're gonna add.
Yeah, and also this type of dish, like again, when we're talking about sweets or snacks, you always want to make sure that there's something, you know, healthy about it. So in this case, we're using the soluble fiber. You know, the cherries are adding even more fiber to it. They also are soluble fiber, but it's specifically the beta glucans that are in the oats that help to reduce that bad cholesterol. But on the note about fiber, research does show that having at least 25 grams of fiber per day can help reduce that fatigue. Okay, so again, making sure that you're getting fiber, and you can get fiber not only from oats, you can get it from vegetables, fruit, any type of whole grain, really, like, you know, whole grain breads, whole grain cereals, pastas, rice, quinoa, whole wheat couscous. These are all various ways of getting your fiber. So again, kind of, it's hard to know what sources have, you know, different amounts, but using tools like MyFitnessPal is a really great way to log something in, like a food, and it'll indicate how much fiber is in there, looking at the packages. Are all ways to kind of get an idea of how much fiber you're intaking.
So filling, whatever you use, kind of like spread it evenly across. And then the rest of the oat mixture, we just sort of loosely crumble it on top. So this one we don't have to pack. If you try it, you're gonna make a mess. I tried it, makes a mess. So just loosely kind of throw it on top like this. And if you have a little bit of extra, it's okay. Probably because I use a smaller pan. All right, that is done. That goes in the oven, 350 degrees for 40 minutes until you get a little bit of that golden brown on top. Take it out, let it cool completely, and then put it in the refrigerator and let it chill. This is really important because you do want it to set. Now, if you want to enjoy it right away as almost like a crisp dessert while it's nice and hot, beautiful. That'll work just as well, right? So you can serve a little bit at the time, and then you can save the rest for later and cut it into like little squares. I made this morning. Don't know if it has time to set, but you can see the difference. So that's that golden brown on top. And again, the beautiful thing about the parchment is that.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, this is a really quick wash after. I don't have to scrub anything, so it's fantastic.
And as a snack, right, you could kind of cut these, freeze it, and then pre-portion it out for yourself so that if you're going out for the day, you know, kind of having snacks between your meals is another way to help boost your energy, right? You want to make sure that those energy levels are kind of pretty solid throughout the day. If you're finding that, you know, there's really big gaps between your meals and you're finding yourself tired, kind of ask yourself, well, maybe I'm hungry, maybe you're thirsty, and having snacks on hand that are healthy, you know, lower in sugar, higher in fiber, are beneficial to have instead of grabbing for the ones that you might get like in a vending machine or at a coffee shop that might not be as heart healthy for you.
Yeah, awesome. So, I think it works. Yes.
Woohoo!
So it should hold together like that once it's nice and chilled. And you can pre-cut them and refrigerate some. They'll probably last, they wouldn't last long in my house, but probably like 3 to 4 days in the refrigerator. Otherwise, these are amazing in the freezer. They hold up really, really well in the freezer. So just sort of cut them up ahead of time into like your little squares or little bars, and then freeze the rest and sort of set yourself up for like a nice snack, like
Yeah, it's
Steph
great.
talked about.
Or dessert.
Or dessert. It's a nice like healthy treat. But again, really, really focusing on the oats in this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the last
Yoo-hoo.
recipe.
Yes.
We did it!
Yay.
Yes! Fantastic!
Thank you.